All right.
Well, welcome everyone to our second AfterCare meeting for Colorado Unlimited Potential Lovely Souls. Good to see you all.
Yes,
this is JoJo. There's Miss Carrie over there. Mary, Melissa, and Lynn are here. Hopefully the other girls are going to be popping in. And wow, okay, so it's been an interesting week for me. I hope everyone else has had an interesting week as well. And what was that face, Carrie?
I just clicked on the wrong thing, and it was really way more over-exaggerated than it needed to be. Kind of full of documents, and I was going to attach it to somebody's email instead.
Gotcha. So, how's the week been for everybody? We're just going to do this as a collective. So, we had some homework, part work, some lovely little work we had to do, some action stuff. So did everybody set their reminder for the how am I feeling, what am I thinking, and why?
Yes, I tried and it didn't work.
It didn't work?
What didn't it? What do you mean it didn't work?
I don't know. Chad tried it twice and I tried it once. So it's me and technology.
Oh, do you mean to program it in?
Yeah, I programmed it in and it never went off.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, did you remember though and do it anyway?
Well, not one time.
One time. So maybe for you it'd be better to put stickies on your mirror or on your workstation or something.
Okay.
So I put mine in my calendar, when your calendar reminders go off, I put mine in my calendar. So when it goes off, as a normal reminder, I have an event coming up or whatever, it goes off in my calendar. So if that's
helps, where we put it.
Yeah. That's
where we put it.
You have an iPhone, right? But you can't see, right?
Right.
Okay, but if you in your iPhone, you have a clock, a little picture. It says clock. You could even search for it. It's black with a white face. If you go to clock, you can go to alarms and just program an alarm in there. But you have to put the days. So if you hit the plus sign, I wish you could see, but maybe I can send you screenshots. That's what I'll do.
And then I'll play around with it. I don't want to hold you guys up, but I'll play around with it. So no, I didn't do it all, but I tried. That's all I'm saying.
Good. And it's good. I think it's good to bring it up because really the most important part is doing it. How you go about reminding yourself really doesn't matter that much. So if it doesn't work for you to have it in technology, to use your technology makes me happy, but it doesn't make everybody happy. So if it's easier for you to have sticky notes around your house or to put lipstick on your mirror or just to have your husband remind you one time of the day or, whenever your dog barks and that is a reminder, whatever it is. Like Pavlov's dogs, they were programmed to salivate when they heard the bell. If you get to the point where when you hear a certain thing that reminds you to ask yourself that's a really great way to stay always in awareness of how you're feeling. So that's really the goal. So I'm glad that this came up because I don't think that I ever mentioned that. So, I don't want anything to get to be distress.
Okay.
And we can also, teach you, if you want to learn how to use your alarms on your phone, I can send you screenshots and help you. But it's really the important part of the whole assignment, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Awesome.
You're welcome.
Mary, did you do yours?
I think I had the same problem. I put it on my calendar for an all-day thing for Friday, and so no, I didn't do it as often as I should have. When I thought about it, I did.
And so how was it when you caught yourself? So what was your experience?
There were times that if I really thought about what I was thinking, there were times that I wanted to change that thought.
And that's awesome. After you notice what it is. A lot of us try to change it before we recognize what it is, and so we never really get to the core of things. But if you really knew what it was and then wanted to change it, that's the next step. So there's nothing wrong with that, as long as you were being honest with yourself about the original feeling and the original thoughts, if that makes sense.
Right.
Yeah, so good.
Also, Melissa, I don't know if you can unmute and share. If it's not safe, then don't.
Yeah, I'm just pulling in my driveway.
Okay.
And my dogs will probably bark when I go in the house, and then I'll get on my commuter. But
That's okay.
I just really appreciated that heart work, because it just arrests our thoughts to really ask the question, what the heck are you thinking about? You know, when you're busy doing whatever you're doing, whether it's housework or driving or whatever. It's like, so I found it really helpful, because I find myself really anxious about my performance and getting a million things done. That's really not realistic, and I get anxious, and then I'm like probably a little more not pleasant to be around. So it really was helpful to just do a check, like, what am I really thinking about, and is what I'm thinking about helpful, my mindset helpful to those that happen to be around me at the moment. And a lot of times it wasn't helpful, because I had my own agenda. It really wasn't something that was beneficial to everybody that was in my midst at the time. So I found it very confronting, actually, and in a healthy way that I could adjust what I was thinking.
Excellent. You should find it confronting. I mean, there are only a few times that I will use the word should, and that's one time, because that's kind of the point of the whole thing, is because we are confronting that beast inside of us, that imposter that's trying to make us believe that we're something different than we are. So that's amazing. I love the words that you used. I love that you were aware that, you know, I'm not going to be the pleasant person that, like, as an O temperament, that's who you are, is pleasant. And noticing that you're not being who you are by not being present, and being able to switch that. My question for you and for all of you is, did you go straight to your thoughts, or did you go to your feelings first?
I went to my feelings, because I felt like I was feeling anxious about what wasn't happening and what I felt I needed to have happen. So I was anxious, and I was able to calm myself down and be more present in reality, I guess. You know what I'm saying? I guess that's a good
That's
word.
fantastic. I wonder, and I don't know, I'm going to ask Dr. Slade this, and he might not, I don't know. I wonder if for an O, it's easier to notice the feelings right off the bat, because you are in the now. So you know how you feel right now, where other temperaments might be trying to look into the future, you know, whatever, trying to figure things out. But I think everybody pretends. But that's really good, because feelings precede. They are the indication of the real thoughts, because we can pretend to feel and we can pretend to think. We can surface feel and surface think, right? So I love all of that. The other thing that I want to say is that this is not just a week-long assignment. This is something that, if you choose to, will be something that you'll do for the rest of your life. This is what puts you in control of your life. Because we have circumstances, we have 5 senses that show us what's going on in the world, we have ears that listen to the news, we have, you know, smells that tell us that, you know, whatever. There's all kinds of things giving us input that are affecting our thoughts unless we're aware of them. If we know how we're being affected by things, we can, like you said, I wanted to change them.
Right.
That was scary, right? So awesome. That's what it's all about. If we can have this be an assignment, like my phone, I spent programmed into my phone for 4 years now, and I most of the time do it already by myself, but it still pops up on my phone just to make sure that I am checking in. So it's a practice, and it's really, I believe it's one of the foundational secrets to living your life on purpose. So if you didn't do it perfectly this week, that's so awesome. That's good, because nobody's perfect ever, and at least you're aware of that. And you did it once or twice. Way to go. You did it once or twice without having the reminder. That's amazing, right? So now this week, put the reminder wherever it is that works for you and continue forward, because you're never going to be done. I mean, you can choose to be done. But in my advice is to make it a lifelong practice. This is one of those things that you're working.
I think it's a gift to yourself and a gift to everybody that you're around, and they benefit without even knowing what you're doing.
Right?
So it's great.
That is so good.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right.
I kind of laughed at myself when I remembered to do it today. I was eating some potato chips in the back room at work, and they were not my potato chips. I don't usually buy potato chips. And so I said, whose potato chips are these that I'm eating? And everyone was like, I don't know who, they're whoever's in the back. And my immediate thought was like, yeah, I bet they're all thinking, yeah, Lynn always does this. Go ahead and just eat them, Lynn. So I kind of laughed at myself. And I don't know if it was a feeling or a thought, but kind of both at the same time, I guess.
Probably. I mean, yeah. Sometimes they do happen like that. And if most of the time when I say, to go to the feelings, it's because we lie to ourselves about how we feel. But you felt something and you knew the thought that went with it. So I love that. It's funny. When we can laugh at ourselves, that's progress. That was one of the things Sorry, go ahead.
I said good. I like progress.
It is good because we're hilarious. Human beings are hilarious people, really. If you think about it, we're beautiful, we're wonderful, we're complex, and we're staying funny. It's really fun. But when I was on my Love Yourself Thin journey, as soon as I became aware of my thought, that's part of loving yourself, is being aware of your feelings and your thinking and allowing yourself to acknowledge it and then switch it. But that's how I was able to stop mindless eating. And the reason I'm saying that is because I had a relapse this week. Well, just since coming home from the hospital, and I was going through all this hormone stuff, that I started taking progesterone that was really taking me down in the dumps. It was like, whoa. And I'm like, this is not the real me. I don't like this. And so I was very out of control with my emotions and my thoughts. And so I really got real with this assignment I am always doing it, but sometimes I'm way more intentional. And I noticed myself like eating Halloween candy. I haven't done that for so many Halloweens. And I'm just like, I went to my mom's house after I had made a declaration on Facebook that I'm done with sugar, and I just ate, I don't know, a whole handful of sugar, and I'm like, what the heck did I just do? So I had to pay attention to what I was feeling and started to realize, is it because of my thoughts? Well, yeah, and it's because of these hormones. And so anyway, I was able to make some changes and make some, do some actions to get it switched. And today and yesterday, I feel so much like me again. I'm so happy, woohoo! So yeah, JoJo's got her snacks. Anyway, just as a lot of people are like, how do I stop the mindless eating? This is how. Pay attention to your feelings and your thoughts. It's the answer to everything. So, not everything, but almost everything.
That's good. Awesome.
Jojo, how about you? Did you do it?
I did.
How'd it go?
I have been having a little bit of well, there's Melissa's face. I have been having a little bit of a relational challenge with someone else, and so I realized how often I was feeling bad about that this week. And so and then when I would stop thinking about it, then my thing would go off and I'd go, wait a minute, I'm feeling bad about it again. It was just that kind of repeat of what was going on. And so it was interesting because I was listening to an audio by Esther Hicks, and she's like, when you're thinking about that thing you don't want to think about, and then you say, okay, I'm not going to think about that thing I don't want to think about anymore, but I'm still thinking about that thing I don't want to think about, and I'm still thinking. It's like that.
Dave was just like,
right. He sent me I think he sent me the audio actually.
I was going to ask you, did you get that from Dave or did he get it from you?
It was just it was funny. It was I don't know, a week ago, and it was just perfect because it was that's where my brain was. But it was a good notice of how crazy obsessive my brain can be.
All of our brains can be. But that's amazing. And so this, again, a temperament thing, there's different reasons why it is and stuff like that. But that's awesome.
It was always feeling first. So
always. That's awesome. Good notice. Amazing. It really is the beginning of change. And so I think this is awesome. First of all, you do not know how many people I have coached that I give them the assignment and they will not do it because it seems just stupid to do, or it seems too easy, or I don't know. There's so many reasons. I know that people often don't do things because they're too easy. They seem too simple. Mm. So, and then they'll come back to me, not all of them, but some will come back to me and say, okay, what was that exercise again? I think I'm ready. And that's when their changes start to happen. So all of you, whether you did it one time or 5 times or 27 times, the fact that you were willing to do it is a huge A+. I said we don't grade in here, but y'all just got an A+ in my book, because that you're willing to do the work is, it's amazing. So I'm excited about it.
I had a little bit of a rebellion too.
Well, of course you did.
My thing went off and I went, really? I don't want to like do this again. So
yeah,
like,
exactly.
Get out of my head. Get out of my head, right?
Get out of my head. I've heard you say that before. That is a, yes.
David, because David Wood spends a lot of time in my head.
Yes, exactly. I was going to see if you remember why I've heard
I
that.
do, exactly.
But that's another reason why human beings are funny, because we want to change and then we rebel against the change. I amuse myself daily. So let me show you, Jojo, it's a perfect leeway into this next thing that I felt like, well, at the retreat, I wanted to share it. I'm like, we don't have time. So I wanted to do it on these calls, and today I thought it would be a good idea. So Jojo was talking about relational issues. And, none of us live on an island. None of us are alone. None of us. Even if we really want to be, we are all involved in so many relationships. We have family relationships. We have love relationships. We have work relationships. We have culture relationships, whether we want to or not. We have relationships with the magazines in the stand. We have relationships. We are all a part of systems, thousands of systems. And some of the systems are inside of our own mind. So we have in our mind, I've heard people say it, and I felt the same thing. I have a sexual me, I have a feminine me, I have a mom me, I have a fat me, I have a child me, I have all these different me, I have a workout, all of these different parts of me that sometimes they fight. And then I have a me that oversees all of it and watches it. And sometimes that me is the voice that I've been expanding, because that was the one that was silenced. So anyway, that's a system. We're all a part of a system, and one change in a system can change the whole system. One little change. Like, we had our daughter-in-law was driving a brand new for them car, and it was dying on her as she was driving. And so we were driving behind her, luckily, and it happened then, like her car just died in the middle of the road. So Dave got out and saw it was a battery, but he put the battery in, and it wasn't the battery, because the battery started to die again already. It was a brand new battery. So he, traced it back to the alternator, I believe. I don't know what it all the way ended up to, but that alternator was one little thing that was affecting the whole system. The whole car didn't work because the alternator decided to act up, right? So that change to the alternator changed everything in the car. And it's the same with relationships. And it feels hard, but when we are on a personal growth journey, or when we're doing anything, if we make a change, we throw off the whole system. It's like doing a dance. I say all the time, Dave and I waltzed for a really long time, and then I started to do the salsa, and I started stepping on his toes a lot. And so there were problems, kind of, and it's just, and sometimes we feel like, well, I can't change because he won't let me, or it's causing too many problems, or whatever. But really, if we keep doing the salsa, eventually Dave's going to learn the steps, right? So the whole system will change if we persist, whether it's for the good or for the bad or for the neither. Okay, so that's part of, I'll probably bring that up a lot, because a lot of our problems inside, a lot of our emotions, a lot of our thoughts are related to other people on one level or another, or they're related to the programming that other people have helped us to do and created the different system, parts of the system inside of our own minds. So when we, there's a cycle. Let me share my screen here. I think it's this one. Yes, it is. Can you see it as violation of trust? Can you see my screen?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So these are things that happen in relationships. Okay, any kind of relationship. Things that happen. So Jojo, do you mind if I put you on the spot? And you don't have to get too detailed or too personal, but just like, what was the thing in general words, or just come up with the word that made you feel confused, or that caused the feelings about the relationship that you were talking about? One simple thing.
Something happened, and we are interpreting what happened differently.
Okay, so the thing that happened before you did the changing of the interpreting, that is not a word. Interpreting differently made you, so there's a box here that says pain and confusion over safety of relationships. When the thing happened, how did you feel? Can you see in these words here that are listed, does it relate to how you felt? So there's unsafe. For the people that can't see the screen, I'm going to read them. There's unsafe, insecure, unsure, used, guilty, fearful, powerless, out of control, controlled, yes, vulnerable, disconnected, unknown, betrayed, invalidated, unable to measure up to expectations. So which one was it?
Betrayed.
Betrayed. Okay, so when you,
that's interesting, because it's a word that comes up for me a lot.
Is it? Okay, this is going to explain why. This is exciting to me. Okay, because when I was shown this, I was like, oh my gosh. And then I was able to apply this into my thoughts and feelings thing, and it really, when you get it, it makes a huge difference. So when you feel betrayed, Jojo, all human beings either go to controlling behaviors to escape, to cope with that feeling of betrayal. We either go to controlling behaviors or we go to escape behaviors or chaos behaviors. Mm-hmm. So in the controlling box, or in the controlled box, I'm going to read the words for people who can't see the screen. There's controlling. So this is your behavior. You become controlling. You become perfectionistic. You become performance driven. You become defensive, judging, critical, demanding, intellectualizing, nagging, lecturing, or withdraw to defend yourself. Or you could go to the escape behaviors and the chaotic behaviors. So you escape, you numb out, you become selfish, you become addicted to substances or activities. Substances aren't the only things we're addicted to. Everybody has addictive qualities. So either a substance or an activity, like being busy or stressed, irresponsible, impulsive, dramatic, avoidant, secretive, minimizing the issue. Oh, it's not that big of a deal. Or you withdraw to avoid people, not to defend yourself, but to avoid people and situations. So which one of those would you say that you went to?
I think there was a whole slew.
Were they in both boxes, or was there one box?
Both boxes, because I think for me, it started off.
Yeah, I want to know the started off one. So, okay.
Defensive.
Okay, stop there.
Okay.
For 1 second. Don't forget, because I'm going to ask you the rest of them.
Okay.
So you go to defensive. So defensive, when you feel defensive, let me pull up this other thing here. And I don't know if it will switch. Do I need to stop sharing and then go back? Can you see both of them?
Yeah, it'll just show whatever's on your screen.
Okay. I switched it one time and people are like, I can't see what you're, anyway.
Oh, let me see.
Here's the.
I don't see two screens. I only see one.
Do you see coping with pain and violation of trust?
No, I see it up on your tab, but I don't see it open.
Okay.
So if you click on that, it should open and we should be able to see it.
If I click on what?
On the tab at the top where it says coping, because I can see coping.
Oh.
There you go.
Well, that's not the one that I want. I want.
Oh.
Which one do I want? Coping with pain, not coping with anxiety. Let me.
So is everyone doing this along with us and picking out your words?
Yes.
So don't
yes,
just like use me. Pick a scenario for you.
Mm-hmm. And for some people, watching and totally being involved in JoJo's process will cause an aha. Others of you will be able to just naturally plug in your own. Both are okay as long as you're following along. And it might take a couple of times to get this. So if I do this instead, it's still just showing it in preview. Hold on. If I open it. Dang it.
No, I don't see it. We just still see the trust one. Okay,
well, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to stop share.
Okay.
Just to show you what this looks like. And I don't.
Hi, Erin.
Oh, hi. Okay, now I'm going to share it again and go to this one and share.
Okay.
So can you see coping with pain now?
Mm-hmm.
All right, now maybe I can bring up the other one, next. But
okay.
Okay, back to here. So your feeling was betrayal, and then your coping mechanism was defensive. So when you feel defensive, when you get defensive, Jojo, when you get in that defensive mode, how does that make you feel? So now we're going to go back to this. Can you see violation of trust now?
Mm-mm.
No? Okay, I'm just going to keep going back and forth.
Okay, but we understand the other one though. So if you stay on one with the words, we're good, because I think we have the visual of the cycle.
All right, awesome. That's what I was going to say.
You guys agree with that? That we get that? Okay.
Yeah, this one is the more important one. So now can you see the violation of trust again?
Yeah.
Okay, so when you're feeling defensive, how does that make you feel? Go back over to the pain and confusing feelings.
Maybe unsafe or out of control.
Okay, so either one of those. Unsafe when you're defensive, so that's why you're defending, or you feel out of control because you get hard to control, or let's pick one of them just for the heck of it.
I'm trying to relate it to this specific incident.
Do you remember what your next coping behavior was? Maybe that'll help you pick one. Or we can actually just do both.
I think it was unsafe.
Okay, so unsafe, which then caused you to feel which way? You said you felt several things and you were going to list them. So first you were defensive, which made you feel unsafe, and then what was your next?
To withdraw.
To withdraw. To defend yourself, or withdraw to avoid people?
Oh, to withdraw to get away from that situation.
Okay, so you withdraw.
So actually pack and leave, yeah. So withdraw, to go away from it.
Okay, and so withdraw to avoid the people or the situations, which makes you feel, go back to the feelings.
Guilty.
Guilty, okay, and when you feel guilty, and we're just going to do it one more time, what's your next behavior?
Maybe judging or critical.
Okay. All right. So do you see, it's a cycle, and we stay in this cycle. And this is why when we don't recognize the cycle that happens, we stay in the cycle. And that's why we can't get away from certain situations, or we go back to what our pattern is, and that's the pattern. And when I did this, I noticed that I almost used the same pattern with almost everything, because I felt insecure, I felt powerless, and so I would just have the same cycle every time. So in my own, so what you do once you notice it, I don't need to give you a personal example right now, maybe later, is once you know what your controlling behaviors are to cope with the pain, you can start to choose a different behavior, the one that feels better. So if you're feeling betrayed, Jojo, what could be something else you could do rather than getting to defensive? First, you recognize I'm getting defensive, but maybe what would be something you could do instead? And I'm going to show you some things, but because this is hard.
You mean ones off of this list?
No, we're going to get away from this list. What would be something positive you could do to get you out of the cycle? So we've been in the cycle. We've been just going around and around and around. Right? So now we're going to make a conscious decision to get out of the cycle. So and this isn't even going to have any thought behind it, but I know that when I was with a group of people, and this violation of trust would be, I don't know, something that would make me feel insecure. So then I would withdraw of people and situations, or I would become secretive. Then I would feel, well, I can't be seen, so I'm going to be secretive, and I would start to do little things that were like almost lying, just telling secrets and only sharing what I thought was safe, and then that would make me feel guilty. So then I would get to intellectualizing, and I just was in the cycle. And so one of the things that I did, that I started to do, was something that totally switched my feeling. My thing was getting out of my comfort zone. So wearing my hair up was one of the things. When I started to feel really insecure, I would wear my hair up to totally switch the cycle and to get me in a different place that would cause different feelings and different behaviors. Wearing my hair up actually made me feel really good because I was getting out of the insecure thing and not being afraid to be seen anymore, which caused less feeling insecure, if that makes sense. But it took a minute because it was like changing the wiring and I was stepping on my own toes. Does that make sense? But it was like choosing a behavior that I could do that was different than going to hiding or all the other stuff that I would do. Mm-hmm. So, hi, Cindy. And so I'm going to show you, because this is what relationships, the ones inside of ourselves, they're all the same, but there's also, when it's dealing with other people, let me show you this. Because everything does go down to, again, relationships. Where does it go? One of them hides when I pull up another one. Oh, here we go. Okay. Sure. I have so many screens open.
You know, I could go listen to something. I mean, if you want to push me out of my comfort zone.
Well, it might not be getting out of your comfort zone. That was my thing, but what were you going to say?
Go listen. I was just going to say, go listen to something that puts me in a different state.
Okay. So then you're teaching your mind, when I feel betrayed, I'm going to go, what does that do to change because if you felt betrayed again, but listening to something, what does that do to you instead? What does that make you feel like?
Gives me a different perspective.
Gives you a different perspective. Does that change your actions then?
Maybe it puts me back in control.
Okay. Okay, because you felt out of control before. It's put you back in control. So does it change your behaviors? Does it change the way you're going to respond to the situation eventually, or like? Eventually,
yes.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So when you're listening to something, it changes you back into control. When you feel in control of things, then what?
I see things more rationally.
Okay. So you can see things.
I'm able to take responsibility for my piece, whether or not it's
okay.
Whether or not it's me. Then I'm able to just go, okay, my bad.
Does it help you back up from the situation and not be so narrow focused on it, and see other things to think about instead?
I'm more of an observer than more observer than voice.
Okay. So yeah, you can oversee all of that stuff and pick and choose instead of like be stuck in the feeling, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so here's something, and I'm gonna focus on this bottom corner. You guys can see my screen, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you see the word trust?
Mm-hmm.
Because this is where we're talking about violations of trust. And really, if you were to think about, a lot of the feelings that we have come from violations of trust in one way or another. Because all people, so we talked about temperament a lot at the retreat. We talked about how we all have there's 4 different temperament types, and we all fit into a category in one way or another. And then we're born. So that's our temperament. But then we're born into an environment, which is our family. It's our culture so many ways our environment works on us, right? Whether it's media, whether it's friends, whether it's church, whether it's whatever. So we have our environment and our parents are doing the best they can, but they start to fill us with stuff, and our wiring, based on our temperament, we respond to our environment based on our temperament. So one of us might respond one way to the same situation, and someone else will respond completely different because of the why. Okay? And those two together form our personality, which is how we behave. Okay? And we can change our personality. We can change our behavior, which is the color code type of thing. And a lot of other personality profiles focus on the behavior part. But the why part doesn't change, right? So here's our environment. So if we're going to talk about environment, a big part of our environment of how we become wired, because I think we talked about how the core temperament is your spiritual wiring, but then we have a brain that we are so open. It's like a blank slate, and we start forming wires as soon as we're not even born yet. Before we start forming emotional wires, we start taking on our mom's emotions and her environment. So we start forming all these neural pathways that become our wiring, and a lot of it are based on our attachment style, how we become attached to our parents. And our attachment is based on whether or not we feel safe in our home and in our families, and we have somebody that we know we can go to when we're disorganized and they'll help us to reorganize again, or we have a place that we can go to when we're feeling good and we can launch from there. We know that we can fly because we have a secure base to launch from. So does that make sense so far?
Mm-hmm.
So the attachment style of how we were raised makes a huge impact on how we behave and how we feel. And they're based on whether we feel safe or whether we feel loved. So safety is I matter, and that I matter to other people. I matter and I'm safe. Like, they're gonna do whatever they can to keep me safe because I matter that much. That's where trust comes from. And on the love side, the identity side, I'm loved and I belong somewhere. That's what happens when we have a secure base. So safety comes from trust. And a lot of times when we feel unsafe, we choose not to trust. But the way to feel safe is to learn to lean into trusting. And we have to learn to trust and test. And that's where the risk comes. That's the comfort zone thing. So when we can lean into trusting and risking in order to feel trust, then we can feel safe. But trust has to come from predictability. So the person that we're trusting, we have to predict that they're going to respond the same way every time, that they're going to do the things that we count on them to do. Okay? And if there's not predictability in a relationship, then it's hard for us to trust that person. There's balance of give and take. Balance of give and take means I give 50% and you give 50%. A lot of times in relationships, we talk about it's 100-100. I'm going to be 100% me, and they're going to do 100%. They're all going to make 100% effort, yes. But when it comes to give and take, sometimes I give, and other times I also have to take and give the other person a chance to give. And if that's not a 50-50, there's not trust. And then vulnerability, willing to let whatever's going on the inside show up on the outside. So in my relationship, a lot of times I'm afraid to share what's going on the inside because I'm afraid of the reaction and the response that I'll get. And so because I start to predict it. Okay, if I say this, he's going to do this, and then I'm going to feel this way, and so I'm just not going to do it at all. But in order to strengthen my relationship, I have to learn to be vulnerable and to be open and to share those things. So, and that's where trust comes from, and that's where safety comes from. So this violation of trust is where all that stuff we talked about is how we start to feel more safe, which then allows us to be a healthy version. We get to be a secure base for other people. We get to be a more healthy version of ourselves, and we switch the way environment affects us, and we get to change the way we behave if there's, weaknesses in our behavior. Does that make sense? It's a lot of information, but I just want you to see the overall picture of how we are wired and why we do the things we do and how it all comes together in our relationships with the world. Does that make sense? So when you go to a retreat and everybody's on the same page and everybody's feeling good and everybody's talking about how beautiful they are, and everybody feels safe because we've all made these agreements, and you feel amazing, you feel on top of the world, and then you go home and you're being the salsa dancer all of a sudden, and you go home to the waltz, and nobody knows what you've learned, and nobody has agreed to be safe for you yet because you haven't given them the chance to. Does that make sense? You start to go back to your old pattern because that's what we do. So the difference is to break the pattern. So if the pattern is when I feel betrayed, I'm going to get defensive, and then I'm going to feel out of control, and then I'm going to, that cycle, we have to change the behavior. So what is it that I'm doing that I want to change? If I don't want to feel betrayed anymore, what makes me feel betrayed? Right? And then do I talk about it? That's a lot of the times. If I feel betrayed, I have to be willing to talk about it in an open relationship. And that's where it gets to be really detailed. And you can't just learn it all in 1 hour. But I just want to know, I'm going to stop the share now. And I just want to know if there's any ahas for anybody, if anybody's feeling completely lost, or is there any, can you guys see how it all works together? That's my question. Any comments?
Well, I couldn't see it because I'm on the phone. So I'd like to see that. But I had a couple of ahas, I think. When you said, we're all at the retreat and we're playing at 100% and everybody's made agreements and everybody knows what we're doing, and then you go home and fall through the wall and nobody knows the agreements that you made, and you end up going back to the way that you were. I guess I was just trying to find out if that's the same thing as, what is my question? How do I totally lost my words now. Shoot. Okay. I went to therapy and talked to the therapist about it a while back, and assigned meaning. Yeah. So is it the same thing as assigned meaning? Expecting others to react the same way as.
We do. I mean, we've been in this pattern of when I do this, you do this. That's what I was talking about. So just to be completely open, you know, when I, let me share one of the things. There's been tons. When I decided to start pole dancing, okay, most of the world, you know, in my personal development group, everyone's like, woohoo, that's so awesome, go for it. You know, I'm like, wow, I want to see it, blah, blah, blah. And then I have other people in my life that are like, oh, so now what does that mean? You know, are you trying to, you know, and so, but those are the relationships that I've been in longer. So my reaction would be, well, now I'm going to close up even more, because now, just like everything else, if I tell you something that's on my heart, it's going to be stupid, it's going to be wrong, it's going to be against all of our current, you know, flow. And so my pattern was to shut up and not talk and keep it all inside until I want to explode. And then my pattern was to find somebody else who likes the fact that I pole dance and talk to them all the time. That's escaping my relationship of trust, and that's making me feel unsafe at home. Does that make sense? Because that's the, I'm predicting now that every single response I get is going to be the same as that one. Oh, so now you're evil. Oh, no, I'm not. I'm the same person. I'm just having fun. But I don't say that. I keep it inside because I'm afraid of everything I'm going to say, because the pattern, I'm assigning meaning to the whole pattern, you know? But now when I can look at the, first of all, I can look at the relationship and remember also times that most of the time it's actually better than that. You know, most of the time I'm very accepted, but I'm focusing on the times I'm not. And then I can look at temperament type and I can know that this person feels something and speaks it before he even thinks. And he doesn't mean most of what he says when he's in that state, right? So then I'm like, oh, okay, that's what happens. So then I get to change the meaning that I assign to it. And I get to be brave and I get to be open and I get to talk and share what's going on inside, because then that gives him the chance to share what's going on in his inside, and we can come to an agreement and we can both feel safe. But the other way around, we're both feeling very unsafe and we pull away from each other, and then home is crappy, right? Does that make sense?
Right.
Okay.
Yep.
So that's exactly what it is. And this is how it fits into the, I mean, I had heard all of the, you know, the assigned meaning and da-da-da-da-da, but when I saw this whole pattern, the whole overview of how it all works, I was like, oh, it's a system, right? It all works together. And when the system works, then I get to be the best version of myself. My relationships are the best they can be. But when I throw anything off the system and when I am not following the formula, it all goes off and I get into my little coping cycle. And does that make sense?
Yes. But
Yeah.
my coping cycle, as I learned in therapy, and excuse the cuss word, was F you.
Yeah.
I'm just not going to deal with you anymore. And then I totally abandoned that person from my life.
Okay, so let me look at what that would be. Would that be defensiveness? Would that be judging?
Well,
or would that be escaping to defend yourself?
I would say more escaping to defend myself.
Okay.
I've been hurt enough, and I'm not going to allow you to hurt me anymore, so F you.
Okay. And in that, then how does that make you feel when you're in that FU stage?
It's not me at all, but it's my coping mechanism that was pointed out to me in therapy that I never even knew that I did.
That's good that you notice that. But then when you can also notice when you're in that state, even though it's not you, that being in that state makes you feel a certain way. Do you know how it makes you feel? Let me read you some words.
It makes me feel everything that I'm not. It makes me feel sad. It makes me feel
So you could feel
judging.
guilty, you could feel powerless, you could feel out of control, you can feel disconnected.
Out of control.
Out of control. Okay. And then when you feel out of control, then you have another behavior. What would that be?
Just go somewhere where I can get control. F you. I'm out of here.
Okay, so then that's when you're withdrawing. I get you're now, instead of withdrawing to defend yourself, now you're withdrawing to avoid people and situations. There's also just escaping, like what I would do, escape. I would just go behind my little glass wall and pretend like I was invisible. That's my escaping. Or numbing out, becoming addicted to something like stress, or being too busy that I don't have time to even notice, you know, or all kinds of stuff. Being irresponsible, saying, you know, not just F you to you, but F you to all of my responsibilities, and just give up on, you know, so when you start to notice that whole cycle, it just continues to go around and around and around, and we can numb out and pretend it's not happening. But until we notice it's happening and then switch the behavior, that's when we start getting power over our life. And that's why noticing your feelings and your thoughts is so powerful. And then knowing what causes this so that you can change your thinking, change your behavior, eventually change your feelings, and totally be in control of your life. Does that make sense? It's like a very complex.
Absolutely. Yeah, because nobody wants to be a martyr that friggin' takes everybody's energy.
Yeah, no, exactly. So we get to be in control of our own energy, and that helps us to deal with other people when they're having, you know, a bad day. We can be with them and we can love them and we can help them without taking it on. So, I mean, there's just all different aspects that it affects. So again, it's very complex and it's also very simple. So is there any questions or confusion or I don't believe it or you lost me or ahas? Someone else have one? Hi, Cindy, you kind of came in at the end of this, so are you getting it? Are you like, what?
Yes, this is really great conversation. So, sorry, I forgot it was Wednesday, and I also had a gym appointment. So, I think every time you talk, Carrie, it's like ditto. Like it's like I would be saying exactly the same thing because that's exactly what I go through, just with my lifestyle in the church and you know, as in women's ministry and things like that. But I'm involved in this network marketing company and wanting to get out there and be more bold and do things and have fun and all this stuff. And I find myself holding back on posting what I really want to post and saying and doing, you know, what I want to do because I always feel like, what are they going to think? And so I was listening to a podcast today, the gal on the Isogenics podcast on the how to build your business using Instagram. It was just like the second one. You go to the podcast just a couple of them ago. And she just said she just had to not care what anybody thinks. That's the only way that you can do that, to build your business to social media. You just have to not worry about what other people are going to think. And so I need help with that.
With how you think and how you feel, and you need to know why it is that you want to do that thing. And when you're in that place, which is why I spend so much time on helping you understand your temperament and also core values, like what's important to you, like why does it matter to you to be more bold, Cindy? Why do you want to be more bold? Do you have an answer?
Well, because I want to build a legacy of love and service to others and have time freedom and be able to travel the world with my husband, all those kind of things. And so
why do you want to do that? Why do you want to do those things?
Well, because I don't want to spend my life working and that doesn't like fulfill me anymore. I used to be fulfilled with my relationships and my working atmosphere, and that no longer is something I want to do. I love to spend time with my husband and my children and my friends, and so that's why.
Let me ask you, have you, like, you've been doing this and you felt like you were fulfilled, and then did something touch you and like, oh my gosh, there's more to me than this? And does that part of you, is it like fighting to get out at all? Is it like, no, there's more? Just curious.
Yeah, I feel like I'm not my ultimate potential. I feel there's, because I had a friend probably about 3 years ago that told me, Cindy, you have so much to give others and share with others. You need to not be afraid to, you know, do some videos or some posts and things like that. People want to hear from you. And so I just have to use those affirmations every day to change my thinking on that. It's just that people do want to hear what I have to say. They do want to follow me, because I know that when I'm in a group of women at church or wherever, you know, they look up to me, you know, as a leader, and they're energized by my positivity and my energy that I bring to the room. And
you
so
feel safe in those places, right?
And what?
You feel safe in those places.
Yes.
When you're at Disneyland with your sister and you're talking about photos, do you feel safe?
Right.
Right. And so the way that we learn to feel safe is to risk and to lean into being unsafe for a minute, because that's where you get to know if you could really trust this person or not, right?
Yeah.
And sometimes we have to give them more than one chance, right?
Yeah.
At the same time, it's us doing what we feel convicted to do. So I would challenge you, Cindy, and everybody to keep asking yourself, why do I want that? And why do I want that? You know with zero doubt what it is that you want and why you want it. And then, so it's interesting, I had somebody tell me, she approached me 5 years ago. She's actually the one that prompted me to try coaching. And then she like did my website, and she came back to me and she's like, we need to redo your website because you're edgy now. And part of me was like, well, I'm edgy. And the other part was like, oh, edgy. Oh my gosh, what have I done? How do I now fit into my culture? And I had that thought for like a half a second, and I'm like, shut up. I'm so much more happier than I was back when I was all sweet and, whatever. I'm still stuff. But I was like, okay, I'm going to own that edgy stuff because I've learned to like care less about what other people think. There are some people that I care a lot about what they think, and it totally affects me. So the more that you can lean in, allow yourself to not do things to be reckless. That's going with these chaotic behaviors, right? But if you're doing something because your heart's telling you to do it and doing it with full trust in yourself, then you can allow other people more space to trust you in. You're still going to be Cindy. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, last week when I was getting, I was sitting right next to my sister when we were talking, and she had already like got on to me about these photos. Well, I actually took a bolder step the next day when we were in Santa Monica and Hollywood, and I just started giving her the camera. I said, take pictures of me. Like, because normally she wouldn't want me to take selfies of myself. I'm like, so you take pictures. She goes, sure, no problem, And so I felt good about that. And she's like, okay. I thought she would be like, oh, brother, or something like that. But she didn't. She was totally like, sure.
That's amazing. And the next time you can say, here, you take a selfie and I'll take a selfie and let's both post them. How much fun is that? Let's try on this really stick and do it, And now that's awesome. See, that's exactly what it takes. It's just that little different behavior than what you're used to doing. What can I do different instead of what I'm used to doing? Because when I do things I always do, I'm never going to have the change, right? Or insane.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Awesome. Any other questions? Erin, what are you thinking? Oh, we can't hear you. Are you muted? Can you unmute?
Can you hear me now?
Yes. And we only have 4 minutes, but I want to hear from you because we haven't heard anything from you yet.
Well, sorry I was late. My work life is not cooperating with my social life.
It's okay.
So I was at work.
Okay.
But I'm going to have to go and re-watch this to see from the beginning what all you were talking about. But an aha moment is I am finding I'm starting to get back into my pre-retreat. Like,
I mean, the retreat lasted 2.5 days, right? And how old are you, Erin? Do you mind if I ask?
36.
36. That's so young. So for 36 years, you've been in this other environment, this other pattern, and for 2.5 days, you switched for a second. So which one do you think is stronger?
The other one.
Right. So that's why, right? So now it's just when you recognize it, then you get to start to strengthen this one and have it more often, which being in this group really helps that because you're back in the environment. So you're like, oh yeah. And you start to remind yourself when we start to change the wiring. There's a video, I'm going to post it in the group, and it's kind of hard to see, but it's also so cool. But there's a video of brain actually rewiring itself. You can see the pathways that it usually takes, and all of a sudden it like switches. And it tells you what's happening in the bottom. So it's really cool to watch because it's a literal, honest to goodness thing. Just like if I were to drive down a muddy road and create these ruts in the road, and then the dirt gets hard again, and there's these ruts. So every time I drive down the road, my truck falls into the ruts. And I either have to be really careful and stay in between the ruts, or I can just re-wet the road or pave the road and change it. Right? And so that's what we're trying to do is we're going to narrow the ruts, make them flat, and make new ones, or just keep it flat so you can just totally freely do what you want. So it takes acting. So Cindy, you talked about affirmations. You just keep telling myself these things, and that does something sort of. But until we also engage action, it's not going to really go very far. The thoughts by themselves aren't strong enough to go into the ruts, but when we have our thought, and then we have our action, and we add music, and we add all kinds of other things firing at the same time, that really accentuates the firing. It strengthens the new neural pathways So they can be stronger than the old ones. Does that make sense? So it's like all the things. And so that's why action matters so much, because it becomes a part of your DNA and not just something on a paper that you read out loud every day or listen to in your headphones. That's not enough. Make sense? Being on this call, watching the recording is awesome. I loved hearing that from you, because that's what it's going to take. That plus acting on, doing the homework, changing your behavior, doing something scary.
I did do the homework.
Awesome. And how did that go?
I mean, I'm not as angry at a certain person anymore.
Good. Why?
But I'm still angry, so I know it's not an easy fix.
No.
I'm trying to let it.
So you
the anger
wipe
go.
the slate clean? Is that what you're saying?
Well, with her, it's the one that I talked to. Do not like her. So we're halfway. We've halfway wiped the slates.
And the more you wipe it, the more wiped it will stay, right? So
I'm out of Windex right now.
You're what?
I'm out of Windex.
You're out of Windex.
We'll have to.
Just put different things on it. So as you wipe it, put something different on there.
Yeah. You have to fill things. You can't.
Yeah.
The universe abhors a vacuum, so it'll fill it right back up unless you put something intentionally in place.
Well, the company messed up my hours, and so I didn't want to call her because I knew that she would give me heck about it. But I did, and she was actually very kind, and so that I replaced one bad memory with that one.
Excellent. And so you can either on purpose find all the beautiful things about her. You can look at her eyes and, oh my gosh, her eyes are this amazing shade of green, or she just did her hair really fantastically today, or her clothes are like sexy or whatever. Or you can notice how she treats a customer, and start filling it with that. And you can start hanging out with more people that are not her to fill the rest of the slate with, right? So you don't be with her because she's a boss, I guess. But so it's that. But what I said in the beginning of the call was doing it for 1 week isn't going to, this is going to be a lifelong process. You're going to do this for the rest of your life if you want to be in control of your life for the rest of your life, right?
I sure do.
So the fact that you did it and that you were willing to do it, I was telling everyone most of the time people won't. I suggest that and they won't do it until months later when they're like, okay, what was that assignment again? I'm ready. Because it's like, no, that's too easy, or that's dumb, or I already know, whatever. But the fact that you were willing to do the work says tons about you, and that is all that you need really to change your life, is to be that aware of yourself. So good for you, and to keep going. So
Yay.
It's like 1 minute past the hour. Jojo, do you have anything to add? Sorry, I kind of like hogged the whole call, but I'm passionate about this stuff.
You're all good. I just wanted to, that was really good. Can you post up those things in the files?
I will.
Okay. Would love to know if anyone else did a slate wiping for someone else this week. And added something new for someone else.
Well, I just felt like I was carrying around my dry eraser in my back, because again, that was pretty confronting. Like, just a few minutes into the day with certain people, it's like, okay, here we are again. Okay, erase and start. So it was fun, practical to do that, and appropriate grace to others was the drill. So
you are not the only one that's walked around with a marker and an eraser in your pocket this week. Trust me. It's been interesting. So what we're teaching, we're also learning, right? So it's always that way.
Sure. Good.
Good for you for doing that. So did you feel better after?
Yes, and we had some good days. We're actually gonna go to Sedona, and my 39th anniversary is Saturday. So I'm taking the eraser.
Take it with you. You actually physically have to take the dry erase marker, then take it with you. Stick in your pocket.
And the eraser,
Yes. Yeah. All right. Awesome. Do you have some heart work, Carrie, that you want to give?
The heart work would be I'm uploading these right now. So to keep tapping into your feelings, your thoughts, and your why, keep that going, turn it into a habit, and also pay attention to the violation of trust cycle and notice what your pattern is. So not just the one, but like what does that lead to, and how does that change my feeling? And notice your cycles so that you can choose a behavior that's going to take you out of it. So that's kind of, I mean, it's not kind of, that's the assignment, and it may take more than 1 week to really tap into it, but I think you'll start to notice the patterns at least.
So what if we took a situation that we're either currently in or have experienced and reworked that on the sheet so you could see it, so you could actually have it in print and see how it goes?
Yeah, you can either do that, or you can, as you, because maybe you don't know what that situation is right now. That's what I would be like, what? I don't know what situation. But as I start to listen to my feelings and finding them on there, and then noticing what I was doing with it, then I'd start to plug it in.
Cool.
So whatever, in whichever direction, you can choose your situation right now, or you can discover your situation as you listen to your feelings and your thoughts.
Okay.
Awesome.
Anything else that you want to add, Georgia?
I think that's good. I think that'll be, yeah, it's a lot.
It is.
It's a lot. Because what was interesting is as you were going through it, I could also see the cycle that's happening on the other side. Because I know this person so well. I know exactly where on there that's happening as well. So,
Awesome.
Yeah, it's interesting.
That it is interesting, and it's awesome that you notice that, because again, we are a part of a system and there's no way to change that. So when we can see both sides of the system, we can learn how we can stay in control of ourselves, even though, and eventually, like just like the alternator, as soon as we changed the alternator, the whole car started to be affected, right? And when the alternator started to go bad, the whole car was affected. It's the same thing. So if we stay, instead of trying to change other people, because that's not going to work, when we keep our own selves under control and we are always aware of our own selves, the rest of the system will change. It'll either disappear or it will change along with you and start doing the salsa and then maybe the tango and the flamenco and whatever. I mean, you'll be able to dance all kinds of stuff. If you get my analogy. If you don't.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
It's all good. Everybody good?
Good. Thank you so much, ladies.
Awesome. Yeah, it was great. So upload those so make sure that your alarm is set or your Post-its are up or whatever reminder you need to do the feeling, thinking, why thing.
They're all uploaded.
The trust cycle. Okay.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Trust cycle, and I'll as soon as the video processes, I'll get it uploaded and put it on that thread. So I created a thread, so everybody's on the one thread together.
Okay.
And I'll post everything in there so you guys will have access to all of it instead of having to send everybody individual messages. And that'll just keep us all together and
That's awesome.
and accountable. Cool.
Be blessed. Thank you.
Thank you.
So much.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
I'll see you in about 20 minutes, I think. All right, bye-bye.
Yep.
Text me if you need a business day.
Call me, beat me if you want to, what is it? Meet me? Bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.